So, good evening and good morning. Welcome to the Circle of Harmony, where the topic today is gossip, the rasa of gossip, or the ill effects after that. So, just the gossip. So, we'll aim to identify what gossip is, how much it is still present in my life, and what are the ways in which I can stop making it a part of my life or decrease it more and more. So, before we begin, or as we begin, just ingathering ourselves a little bit, bringing ourselves fully here with the help of our breath, just taking 2 or 3 breaths in the present of mindfulness right here, staying with the breath in and out. Thank you. Aspiring for flexibility, receptivity, honesty, and courage as we begin this session, invoking the divine's grace and presence so that we can be guided and handheld if possible, it is possible, towards more simplicity and honesty and truth and light. So the topic, just repeating it, is gossip. And there's this beautiful quote, I don't know by whom, maybe from Buddha, I didn't say who, which said, gossip dies when it hits a wise person's ear. So now it's time to reflect. Does it die when it hits my ear? And before we even do that, maybe it's even better to begin with what is gossip? What do I understand gossip to be? What do I call gossip? Is it just when people are talking bad about somebody? So I think it would be really good if we can unmute and we can share, because just a reminder, it's a circle, sharing circle. It's kind of becoming a one-way street, which should not be encouraged. So what does gossip mean to me? And if I can also maybe share a bit about why do we get pulled towards it? Why do we, when we are doing it, there's something in us which is feeling some delight, as if something is good. And then as soon as we are done, there's something in us which feels bad. I mean, I am hoping we have all seen that movement. So just requesting everybody today to kindly unmute one by one and share, what do I define gossip to be? How is it in my life? And do I see these movements in myself? Or if I haven't, that's great. We'll see them soon. So anybody? Yes, thank you, Charity.
Beautiful topic, Taru. Thank you so much. I've been, thinking about it because we have, lot of relatives. So whether you like it or not, you have to, for namesake, you have to keep in touch with them. So this happens to me very regularly. My aunt is there. So she is 96 years old. So if we call her, you know, normal conversation will go on, but after some time, automatically this gossip comes. You know what happened in their house? See, I might not like to answer the question, but still it won't look nice if I don't answer. But how many times you can say, I don't know, but sometimes I do tell her, it's okay, let us not go into it. But still, this is happening. But when I was conversing with my friend, 4 or 5 days back, she was telling, whether you like it or not, just to keep the ball rolling. To when you talk to somebody, you talk about others. Whether you want it or not, intentionally or unintentionally, you are talking something bad or good, about others. So I used to always think what to talk when we call. Had your coffee? Had food? Did you write your Ramnama? And more than that, what is there to speak? But people expect us to speak. I'm not saying that, I'm saint. It's not so. But, maybe 80% of the time we are forced to keep a conversation going. We need to talk about something, at least about Narendra Modi, at least. So, yeah, I always think what to do, what to talk. And always, speaking about good things, spiritual things is boring for people. They want something spicy.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
When you were saying, I don't know if you realize it yourself, 3 times you said, even if one doesn't want to, one is forced to, or one has to, one have to. So I think one should also look at the root of the things that I feel I have to or must be done. Like, say, calling an elder, you said you have to call an elder. And when you call, then because of lack of topics, you end up talking about other people, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, say when you were sharing somehow, I'm watching these days Ramayan with my little one who's not little anymore. But it's like, the Ram's army and the Ravan's army, right? So say when Ravan had to kidnap Sita, he had asked the help of somebody, right? Who had turned into a deer. I forget his name.
Marriage.
Marich, yeah.
Marriage.
So my son, he paused the video and he asked me, but why did he agree? Right? Why did he had to agree to help Ravan? Because when Ravan had approached him, he had said, no, no, what are you doing? That's Sri Ram. But when he said, I'll kill you, or you have to be kind of, loyal to me, I'm your king. When Ravan convinced him, he got convinced and he said, all right. But what is this have to that comes in us, right? That helps us become that deer that will help in kidnapping Sita ji, and then the whole Ramayan will become. So I must see what is it that is making me. You said it very strongly, and it's not about you, right? This is our
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
Okay, why? Like, if I have to make that phone call, why do I have to make that phone call? Because that person feels loved. But if I'm not feeling any love, or if there's nothing else to say, and if silence is not okay, is it okay for me to put mud on myself? Right? So, those questions now, if I'm ready, I must ask, because these have tos and synthesis of yoga, I'll share. I don't remember in which chapter, Sri Aurobindo has very clearly said that this virtues that we go after, these ethics and moralities, this is also something we have to transcend. They are a very big block for us. Because under these things, under the name of doing good, I'm actually doing a lot of bad. I'm allowing, see, for in this example, I am allowing the other person to dirty their consciousness. I am
Yeah.
polluting their atmosphere by calling them because they are encouraged to discuss. I am polluting my environment, inner and outer. And then I'll repent that, oh, or then I'll just blame the society or the world that why do these relationships exist? Why do I have to? But that have to is something you have chosen. You were told this has to be done and you agreed or you accepted, right? So now I must go back and see that why. So if say I call, say twice a week, maybe I can call once in 2 weeks so that there is more to talk and one doesn't have to. And even if I don't call and if the other person feels unloved, if their love, is based on my calling them once a week, what kind of love is it? So, something I have to probe deeper. because I have a choice. I'm making those choices for so that people we all have our own greeds, right? I have to look good. I am a daughter-in-law, or I am so and so. A daughter-in-law is supposed to call, a daughter-in-law is supposed to, all these expectations, that code that we had shared about the bars of a prison. So these are the bars, right, in which I am locking myself. And then them saying that, but locking is not a choice, but it is a choice, right? I am accepting and creating these bars. It looks tough because it comes under the, with this sacredness and ethics and moralities. But one must question that if now one is working on inner cleanliness and purity, then these things have to go. You cannot have, we cannot have feet everywhere in mud and lotus and I don't know, ocean and river. One must now start making choices and cleaning things. And if the talks of spirituality is boring, let it be boring. They might not want to talk to you more. It's better. Why do we want to entertain people? What's in us? What is it in us who wants to entertain and be called that, that person I love talking to? Why do we want that badge? And nobody is giving us a badge anyway. So, yeah. People, they also like talking about myself. There was this elder in my family who I would connect to very regularly, and they had a help who would come to their home. And every time we would meet, they would want to talk about the help, how she's not okay,
She's
the regular thing. And I had once, twice, thrice, I said, but I don't want to talk about that person, right? Like, because I see how much she's helping you. And if she's not helping you, we can let her go. We can find somebody else. They don't even want to let go, right? Because
yeah,
obviously she is helping. So then the person blasted one day saying that, then what do we talk about? So, and I said, then not talking about anything is better. And that was, it was maybe 15 years back. We have a good relationship, but we have never, after that, had that conversation again because silence is better than throwing dirt on anybody. So, but one has to take stand, and I'm not saying I haven't indulged in anything after that, right? But wherever I catch it, right, wherever I see it, I must step back. There are so many places where I won't see it. That is true. Slowly, 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 as I see it, I offer it. Yeah. Yes, Cyrus, please.
Yeah, hi. So very interesting topic. So even I felt that gossip doesn't have to be always malicious, right? I mean, gossip could be. I'm just asking, could it be good also? I mean, sometimes you talk good about people as well between friends, right? I mean, so would you call that gossip, or you won't count that as gossip? How would you,
Yeah, Cyrus. So
classify that?
personally talking, it's like, there are times when I end up saying things after the fact. I feel that, why did I say that? Like, what was the use of that addition? There's something in me which is constricting, which is feeling small after that unnecessary comment. So that is the thing I would call as gossip. If I don't know, like if I am praising somebody, I would just feel expanded, right? I would not feel that smallness if it's genuine. So just that. So because my
Right,
radar is inside, right? Like our radar is
right.
inside. How am I feeling? What is, how am I
Yeah,
reacting? How's the being
but
feeling? So with
you're
that
right, I
thing
guess.
in mind, yeah. So since
Yeah,
you've
there
unmuted,
are.
yeah, please share.
Yeah, sorry. There are. I mean, sometimes there are people who I don't know if they feel that because you. I mean, I mean, unfortunately, we do have people in the friend circle. Always there'll be one or two who like to comment. Like there is this one guy who will talk about everyone. And I would not. I would hear him. You know, but I won't encourage him. You know, I mean, and I mean, you said some people feel that. I don't know if he ever feels that. I mean, honestly, many times we've even as friends we have told him that, "Hey, let's not discuss and close, but I mean it's just over and over, so there'll be something negative to talk about, each person each time, rather than what we discussed earlier. I mean, there is so much positive also, right, to talk about each person. Like you said, it makes you feel better. I mean, so I mean, I don't know. We've gone through that phase, but I try and discourage, when I keep hearing. And, one very simple rule I follow is that, I won't judge till I know myself, People will say he did this to me, he's like that, and I would not comment or I would not judge, because it's, I think that's one thing I've learned, that from, my eyes, it could be completely different. So that's just some sharing.
Yes, thank you. Really appreciate the sharing. Yes, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, Juan, would you like to add something?
Yes, I was thinking, it's not easy for me to think uh, what gossip is. I remember many times with my ex-wife, we used to have, talks maybe about friends or other couples, things that happen, and I found that sometimes it was, some line between gossip and constructive talk that required attention. Like, for example, sometimes sharing, you know, this couple of friends, they went through this and had this discussion, this attitude. It can be an opportunity to share our point of view, to know if we share values about, these situations, like what would you do in this case? What do you think was good or bad? And it can be a constructive talk in some way, like we are trying to see, a problem that might be a problem that we have on another time, and let's share values about this, that share what we think would be the best to do. Uh, but it can be also very easily come to a place where we are just criticizing, or I don't know, you talking bad about the other person. And it's I thought a lot about that, like to be at, it required a lot of attention from me to understand where the limits were, how to conduct this conversation. And yes, and I think, yes, I think it's very easy sometimes to, to, to judge people and to think we would do better in these situations. And we're really, even if we can explain something, a situation we are going through to another person, it would be so difficult to transmit everything that is behind that, all my history, all the things that can be, influencing this. I think I think it's always a mistake to judge from outside, and I'm very prone to do that. To speak of some situation, some attitude, and criticize. I think it is easy to do that. It is easy to fall in that kind of conversation. And I'm really, if we look closely, we should be more, we should understand that we cannot judge. We would need a lot of information, all the emotional history of every person and all that is involved to really understand and judge some situation. Uh, we really can't. But I would say that it can be helpful in some way if you okay. I'm
Yeah, Juan, your screen has now started getting stuck and the voice is kind of getting much.
yeah.
Yeah, you
Sorry,
don't have your
I think
headphones today?
I think
Okay.
no,
So
but
I'll
it's
just
the
recap what I understood. So basically, what you were like, you started off with saying that it can be helpful too. And when you were sharing that, I absolutely agree that if the focus is on me, right? If I see something, hear something, and if it's about, okay, how would I react? How would I act? What is my learning? So then the focus is not the other. So that would not be gossip. That is reflection, contemplation, learning, growth. So you're right. Like it's not that if we are just talking about something or someone or a particular situation that somebody is going through, that's not gossip. It depends on again the center. Why am I doing this? What am I gaining? Is there
yeah.
any progress? Or am I just voicing a judgment that you were saying that it's so easy to judge? Or it's just, sometimes we just like to talk, right? For the sake of talking, that Charuji was also saying. So, lot of aspects. So hard to know. I mean, we do know if we, connect with them, but at times it can appear to be confusing, although it's not. We know when it's heavy, it's bad. When it's light, it's good. Yeah. So, Juan's screen is again stuck for me. So Ritu and Meera, hi, you have joined late. So what we were doing was we were just discussing what gossip, how do I define gossip? And is there, do I feel it's in my life? Like, am I able to catch it? Do I feel something, sense something after I've said something I don't would have not liked to say? So just for ourselves, recognizing it, defining it maybe, just was requesting everybody to unmute and share if they have anything to say a little bit, one or two lines even, on the topic that is there any rasa to gossip that I see or the ill effects? So that's where we were. Yes, Ritu.
Yeah, so Taru, I'm wondering, usually you take the topics which you are also reflecting on. So so these days have you been gossiping?
That's a very good question. Yeah, so basically, you are absolutely right that something happened a day or two back when somebody was sharing about someone, in their family.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly I found myself saying a few things. And as I was saying, something in me was saying, why are you saying it? Why are you saying that? And yet there was just a flow that I was swept in. And later on, I again resolved that, my God, what's wrong with me? Why would I go there? And then I found something really interesting because I couldn't understand what happens and how to stop. Since you're unmuted, do you have the capacity to read this aloud?
Yeah. Evil gossip generates mistaken opinions, wrong attitudes. It dictates misguided action. Sometimes the evil spreads by contact like a contagious disease. The hearer becomes in turn the teller, who in turn becomes another teller, until in the end a whole group of people is infected. Unfortunately, we have not yet advanced to the point where we can tack a yellow card on a door. Be aware, this house is infected by gossip.
Yeah. So, this part where it speaks about it being contagious is what I felt because I couldn't resonate. I would not have said anything, and I wasn't. I don't. I don't want to give any clarification, but I just want to say that I felt the contagious aspect, like as if in that moment it was again, that slope and I just slipped. And this thing, I could have just heard my opinion was not needed. But how in this process the hearer becomes in turn the teller, who in turn becomes another teller. So this whole thing, so again, after whatever touching this space again, just feel that, how the roots of so many things are still alive in us, and how sometimes, I don't know, because no matter what I say, if I'm talking about something which I don't agree with or I feel the other person didn't do right, there's something in me which feels better, which feels better off, which feels that I would not have done that. So there is arrogance, there is pride, there is ego. But if I were to ask myself, are you arrogant? I would say no. Do you have pride? I would say no. But then how are these movements occurring in me? So they are contradicting what I would want to be, how I would want to be. So that's the reason for the topic. Thank you for asking. And now you share your stand on it.
I really like what once Captain had recently shared in the discussion last week about concentration, about concentration, right? He had shared that even when he was in college, around the dining hall, in the dining hall, around the dining table, children would keep talking, chatting, and he would try to remain quiet because I think inevitably when we start talking, we start talking unnecessary things, and then we do get involved in gossip. And gossip is something, I think it's it's so sticky. It attracts us, pulls us, and even before we realize we are gossiping. So I think actually that approach is quite good, not to talk too much, because when we start talking, we also start talking apart from gossip, apart from backbiting, apart from negative things. We also start um, lying even without realizing. Even if it's not a very conscious lie, we say, but innocent lies also, like we would just exaggerate a situation, or we would just, not very obviously, but in a subtle way, say something about somebody so as to create a wrong impression to that person. But we would do it very innocently, thinking that, "Oh, I didn't say anything wrong." But the tone in which we say and the context in which we are saying has the intention of creating a impression. So that way, I think I really like what he said. The best is to be quiet as much as possible.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, but it's very hard to do because again, how Charuji was sharing that we have to talk a lot of times. And yet, even if when we start seeing this, right, just, like you said, it all appears to be innocent. So we fool ourselves when we say, sometimes, we might say something and we are feeling bad. And I would ask myself, but what did I say wrong? It was all right. But that was my perspective. It didn't need to be discussed. It would not be of benefit to anybody. So, anyways, I mean, even realizing that, this is there and it's not good and it's like a contagious disease, if I'm aware of it, maybe I'll be more vigilant and I can maybe decrease and maybe stalk less. So, yeah, so Juan has sent a message. So he has said, I was about to say something very similar to what you are saying. I totally agree. I feel behind gossip. Many times there is this search for feeling better about myself. Speak about how another person's behavior was not right makes me feel more virtuous, and talking with another person about this makes me feel validated by another person. Yeah, thank you, Juan. And another thing which is really bad as a result is, although it appears to be really good, and we know this, that who we are gossiping to, who we are talking to, we feel closer to them. So this is the world we live in, that when we are talking about unnecessary things or bad things about another person, we feel closer to that person. So that too, the root of that closeness is not right. We need to question that. And most friendships start with, that's wrong, this is wrong, that person did this, and suddenly you feel close because you both went through the same experience. Yeah. Yes, I.
Yeah. I mean, what I also feel is, sometimes, facts can be distorted and, sometimes, exaggerated. So that's when I feel that, this gossip can, become, you know, of course, when you hear it, you don't know, but, that's when it becomes little evil, like we had read. But again, sometimes between friends, as you just said now, you may tend to talk about people, right? Is that really a wrong thing? Because, it doesn't have to, I mean, suppose you're discussing about someone and factual. Why is that wrong? That is, you're talking about some event that happened. You're not say, it's a factual event. So, I mean, I don't know. It's something you're taking out and you're trying to share that, okay, this is what happened, this is what he did. So you would call that also as gossip? Because it's a fact.
Yes,
It's
that
something
is
that
right.
happened.
I think just the old thing only, if I'm feeling okay about it, that's fine. But a lot of times I feel a heaviness as if a bad movement had happened. Because no matter what I say, that underlying thing that I am right, the other is wrong, or I judge right, the other judge wrong. I did not make a mistake and the other made a mistake. I would have done it that way, the other person did it that way. There's something in me which feels superior, which wants to say that I am better. And that is the movement that we are trying to point right now because it comes very subtly, like Ritu was saying. You don't even realize how that up and down thing happens. And I have two videos that I had, stumbled upon, which would throw more light on it. That why is that opinion even needed? I mean, if it's helpful in some way, if somebody is doing something wrong, and you talk to them and you say, this is where I felt you could do right. That would be maybe even a better way of dealing with it. Like, how would talking to a third person help? And if it helps, then please, one must do. But the question is it helping anybody, including ourselves? Who are talking about it. So we're not trying to create problems if there are no problems. But if I indulge and I feel bad about it, or if I feel this is a wrong movement that I don't want in me, then we are looking for a solution. Does that make sense? Like, feel free to unmute and counter it.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. The approach is to speak. But, like you said, many times a person always thinks he's right or she's right, you know. So that's when you probably, you've gone through that route. And sometimes, what you do, then you tend to discuss with friends or family, is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Anyway,
so if
I get
just
your
walk
point.
me through this, say you have a friend, right, who did something which was not okay by you. So then, because
Right,
that person is closed, you talk to a third friend, maybe a common friend or an uncommon friend. You talk to them about what they did. Okay.
right.
So tell me, what was the use of it? Like, why would you do that? And I'm not saying you are doing it, right? Like, just to
Right.
remind
Yeah,
us that
I'm
we're
also
all,
taking a general thing,
yeah,
honestly,
yeah.
but it has,
Hmm.
so yeah, like I said, if you have discussed with the person directly and it's, you find that it's not helped, he
Hmm.
continues the same behavior,
Hmm.
then you move to the third friend and say that, okay, see, this happened, and I don't think it was right, and
Hmm.
and then maybe there would be a conversation around that.
Hmm. So
Again,
in
we
that
don't know who's right.
conversation, what you're looking to have is that the other person should understand your point of view and most
Correct.
likely agree, right? That you are right, the other is wrong, right?
Yeah, but I would
And
be, of course, be open also if the other person says, which is unlike, doesn't happen too often, but yeah, where they say, yeah, you are actually wrong. And I think, go with the first, approach or things like that.
Yeah. So if you're, I think
But
in
there,
this condition, if you're actually
yeah,
looking for honest opinions, right? That, okay, please tell
yeah,
me if I'm not seeing anything. If something is bothering me, the other person is not understanding, this is a situation, can you tell me what you see, right?
right.
So that is progressive, right? That is we trying to focus on ourselves, that this is me, this is him, this is what I see. What do you see? Please throw some light. But what we usually do is we just say, see what that person did. Do you know? So there is no room for growth, or I'm not seeking for an honest reflection, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So it's
And
just,
and you're also right, where you said that nowadays, people love that gossip, even within friends. If you don't discuss too much, you don't, I mean, not that I'm blaming anyone or I'm missing that, but you don't find that interactiveness as much. When they say, oh, see, this guy is not really, discussing much on this thing or that thing, so unfortunately, it's become quite a common thing. And it's something, that people enjoy, that's how I see it many a time.
yeah, agreed. It's a major source of enjoyment and bonding. And like we were sharing, you feel closer to that person who you have gossiped about. And there's hardly anybody, like if you look at relationships, most relationships, the reason they came together or the reason you feel everything is good is mostly a lot of times they have things to talk about other people and stuff. Not many conversations are very holistic or moving towards growth. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So, I have some videos and some quotes, but would Meera or Vishal, they haven't spoken anything, would like to unmute and share something at this point?
Yeah. So as
Go ahead,
I
Mira.
was listening Ritu speak, I could resonate every bit of if I reflect on some events and things that happened over the past few days. I can observe that traits many a times where somehow you innocently or whatever, unconsciously want to pass off things, thinking that this is not gossip, but it actually ends up being, which we realize much later, or maybe not even realize. Um and I think there are two types of gossip. One is where you take the victim stand and say that a particular things happen around me, and the standard tagline is that I don't want to sort of come off as speaking bad of someone, but this happened and then I felt this way. And another form of gossip is where I'm not at all in the picture, and it's like purely poking your nose on somebody else's matters and talking about things in an exaggerated manner and saying that these things happen, how could this happen. So I don't know which one irritates me more, whether coming off from me or from another person. But yeah, in my mind, broadly, there are these two types of gossip.
Thank you, Meera. Yes, Vishal, please.
Yeah, I found the comment on seeing good in others very beautiful. That is a psychic quality. When you see something, and mother has a passage on it also. And most people we we cannot appreciate something beautiful in somebody else, right? Because it kind of,
Vishal, I am not able to
she
hear
says it
what
like
you're saying.
gives you,
It's very draggy. I don't know if it's at my end or yours. Can others hear
about your
Vishal?
own littleness,
Yeah, it's not
right?
very
But
clear.
if the psychic is awake, then anytime it sees, was it? Or was it still the same? I'll take it off my headset otherwise.
Yeah, could you say that again? You got stuck for us.
Yeah, hold on. I'll just take it off my
Now
headset.
it's better. Now what you said was very clear.
Yeah, no, I think that's okay. You can hear now?
Yeah, perfect. So you
Okay.
have to repeat everything. We couldn't understand.
Yeah, I said I found the comment on the seeing the good in others. That's so beautiful, right? Because that is a psychic quality. So, when we, if that element is awake, then anytime it sees, because essentially it's there in us also, right? I mean, that is the only way you see it in somebody else. So if you see a noble act or an act of generosity, or, and even though the person may be flawed in other ways, right? One does not lose that discernment that you cannot observe that people are, as we all are, complex beings, right? There may be, somebody may lose temper, but there may be, parts of his being or her being that are so, you know, have such, incredible acts, maybe of generosity, of love, that one is moved, because then that is the part that you see, oh, wow, this person has something so beautiful in him, right? Or in her. So that part is very true. The other part, I think we can all relate to. I quite, Charuji, that was very, how much can you talk about Modi also? So that I really burst out laughing when you were saying that. But, this is a true thing. And I think, I think besides one, I think at least all the Indians can relate to this, right? With all the relations and the complexity of the relations. So I don't know. Everybody has a different way. I think there are times I find sometimes that, you cannot, especially if it's somebody very close, you cannot like not hear them out, because they just want to vent. One thing one realizes is that, okay, this is, you can't change people, right? Now, that being said, yes, I think you should not definitely indulge. That's number one. So you can just be quiet, right? I mean, that's, I think, an approach we can take. Sometimes I find it helpful is that if the other person is receptive to something else, I think I think the example that Charuji was using was, with her aunt who's older. Well, let us say there is some part of her that she's she does Ram Nam or whatever, right? So sometimes what one can do, I've tried this, is just take it in a different direction altogether, right? So you use your time with them to actually lift them higher, right? Say, okay, like I have, sometimes, it's like people love to listen to stories. And so sometimes maybe we have heard a story and say, okay, I heard this story. Why don't I share it with you? So then, but that only obviously can happen if there is that little bit, of something common, which, maybe at least for that time, lifts their consciousness higher, right? Otherwise, it is a little bit of a tricky thing. And I guess, yeah, what you were saying, Taru, maybe to minimize or avoid the conversation altogether. If there is no other choice, then, yeah, I mean, maybe then that has to be sacrificed, or as you said, just tell them up front. But I have found in some people, especially older people, because generally, at least the older Indian, relatives, I mean, most of them have some, I mean, opening. And so you can maybe talk to them about something different, which, kind of they will relate to, right? So that is kind of another approach. But yeah, it's not an easy thing.
Yes, thank you. Um, I found something interesting. I mean, not one thing, many things. One thing was the origin of the word gossip. So although, regularly the definition was casual or unconstrained conversation or reports about other people, typically involving details that are not confirmed as being true, right? We know this is the conventional definition of gossip. But if we look at the origin of the word, it's coming from Godship, right? Like the words Godfather, Godmother. So literally, it meant a person related to one in God. So coming from God and Sip, so a relative of God. So gossip comes from Godsip, so relative of God, and then it turned into, in Middle English, it turned into a close friend, and then that turned into a person whom one would gossip. So I thought that was very interesting, that how the origin was gossip. So if I have to be with someone, let it be God, and how it turned into gossip. So that was interesting. And one quote from the mother, Sri Aurobindo and mother have said a lot of things about gossip. We'll take them up later, but just one quote. If anybody would like to read this, please they can unmute and do that.
To gossip about what somebody is doing or not doing is wrong. To listen to such gossip is wrong. To verify if such gossip is true is wrong. To retaliate in words against a false gossip is wrong. The whole affair is a very bad way of wasting one's time and lowering one's consciousness. The mother.
So thank you, Meera. So, a lot of times I wonder that is this not required? But what the person did was wrong, was immoral, was selfish. But, there's something, it's like the slippery slope that Monica, how she would love to talk about that, how if it's slippery slopes, you would open just one and then you'll just keep going down. So from that aspect, this absolute rejection of it, I found it to be very strong and helpful. She has not left anything, the mother. She has just crossed everything about. To gossip about somebody is what they are doing is wrong. Not doing is wrong. To listen to such gossip is wrong. To verify if some gossip is true is wrong. To retaliate in words against a false gossip is wrong. So even if it's a false gossip, but if I am saying no, don't do this, it's wrong. So according to mother, even going there, it's like dirting your own feet. Like my people, I think, might not agree with this because it's like again, morally the right and the wrong holds in front of me rather than what in itself is a wrong movement. So what mother is saying that going in the force field of where gossip is happening, but you don't need to go. It's wrong. But I feel that no, because I am a good person, I want to support good. I want to not talk against, I want to talk against the bad, or I want to prove the bad is bad or the good is good. So in my proving of right and wrong, my personal right and wrong, I might not agree with this. But she says to retaliate in words against a false gossip. If something is being said about you and you retaliate, she's saying no need. That also is wrong. Though the whole affair is a very bad way of wasting one's time and lowering one's consciousness. So that constriction that I was talking about, that I felt, was about lowering one's consciousness. Because it felt that you have entered a place you had no business attending. Yeah. So if any comments or reflections on this before we move ahead? Okay. So there's a video that I would like to share. We are almost at the end of it. I'll share the smaller one I had too. And it was interesting. Let's hear what is being said.
So there's that side, but there's another aspect of it that is a little more insidious and I think more subtle and equally damaging to ourselves and also to any community that we're in. And that's the relief we sometimes get by pointing out the faults of others. And it can happen kind of in a spiritual environment. So here's the thing, here's the quote that he said, like, did you ever notice how stingy Susan is? I have my problems too, but I've never been like that. Right? That mind. He also has a quote, did you ever notice how much so-and-so fidgets on the cushion? Gosh, they just can't keep their mind still. I'm so glad I've gotten past that. Or whatever. Now, I recognize some of those things coming out of my mouth. Not exactly those things verbatim, but that kind of mind that can go, oh, you know, look at that. And I'm so glad I don't do that. I may not say it, and sometimes I do. Sometimes we say it in our attempt to connect with other people, to just like have conversation. Well, you know, we don't really have much else to talk about, so let's talk about this person who's sitting between us, who can't seem to sit still, so we can talk about that for just a minute. We're not going to rag on it. But it is a comparison. That what he's pointing out is that by association, in a way, we're kind of elevating our own sense of ourself at the expense of someone else. And it's just a kind of misguided, you know, an antidote. We think it's an antidote. We don't think this consciously, but it's a misguided antidote to try to make ourselves feel better. So in comparison, well, I may not be this, and this, but at least I can sit still. You know, it's like that kind of mind, which is not very conducive for community harmony in a way. No, where it undermines our practice of equanimity, but it's subtle. It can be gross. I mean, we can also just gossip and kvetch about other people, and that can be really noticeable and obvious, and you feel dreadful after it. But this is the more subtle kind of comparison, where you don't even really notice, you've just stated an obvious fact, you feel a little better about yourself, and on you go in the day. So unfortunately, I didn't have time to look this up, but there is a quote, I think it's from the Dhammapada, where the Buddha says very clearly, do not be concerned with what others have done, have not done, should have done, could have done. Be concerned with what you have done, have not done, should have done, could have done. And that is a very, very difficult mind to keep, especially living in a community where we all affect each other so much, and you can simply look at the chore rota and notice that, well, I didn't take out the compost yet today. So I just thought to bring it up because it was an interesting thing that kind of piqued my thought process around how that kind of comparison and a need to elevate myself if I'm not in a good place may fall to the kind of speech that none of us really wants to do, the kind of speech that's really harmful for ourselves and others, but is often more subtle than we're often looking. So,
Yes. So, yeah, I liked how, you know, what she said, because the issue is that these comments look harmless. They don't feel harmless, though. If we are connected within, we do feel that this wasn't needed or it didn't need to be said. But because it's so subtle, and yet it is impurity, it's an impurity, that now if I see it and if I want to offer it and be more vigilant about it, I must. So any reflections, comments on the video? Yeah, so the gist again was focus on yourself. And yeah, so we still have a few minutes. There were some quotes that I randomly found. I am sharing them here. If anybody has the capacity and the will to read them for us, there are 3-4 quotes. We'll end with these quotes today. I'll read. I resolve to speak ill of no man whatever, not even in a matter of truth, but rather by some means excuse the faults I hear charged upon others, and upon proper occasions speak all the good I know of everybody. This is by Benjamin Franklin. It was said in 1726. So I resolve not to speak ill of no man, even if it's true. But rather I would find excuses to say something good about them. Because there is good in everybody. At any time, if there's anything, please unmute and share. Yeah. Yeah, Payal, I need
Yeah.
4 minutes. I'm sorry, it was for 9:15, na? So will you,
9 o'clock or 9:15?
yeah, I sent you the message for 9:15.
Oh,
Yeah?
I didn't
So-
see. Oh, so I thought 9 o'clock. Okay.
Yeah, okay,
It's
sorry
okay.
about that. Yeah, so the next thing is slander is more injurious than open violence. So when I'm talking bad about somebody, slandering someone, that is more injurious than open violence. Again, very strongly worded. The third one, this was more funny, but still not, I mean, it's good. What greedy ears receive. Sometimes when somebody is talking about, some scandal, some news, suddenly we feel something in me, us shifts. So what greedy ears receive, loose tongues betray, but no one can repeat what you don't say. So I liked especially the second aspect that, sometimes we feel that, oh, but I just told them, why did they tell anybody or anything like that? So, but no one can repeat what you don't say. That was a good reminder. And the last one is, I think, again, something that one can clear, this can be a very good, I don't know, stabilizing point, that do not repeat anything you will not sign your name to. And often a lot of what we say, we would not come clean with it. We would not, like if somebody was to say, oh, this person said this about you, I might not agree, want to be held accountable for that. So do not repeat anything you will not sign your name to. Yeah, so just some very random quotes I thought would resonate, and this one we already read about how evil spreads like a contagious disease. And yeah, so we are out of time, and we will be taking up the same topic next week. So if possible, we must reflect on it, contemplate on it, see with more honesty how it touches me. And like, how Meera was saying that either I am the victim or I'm just, point kind of, what did she say about the nose poking, poking the nose in others' affairs. So if I'm doing it, what am I getting? If I'm saying anything bad, just look inside. There is a delight one feels, and it's again not a good delight. It's like scratching a wound delight, like a negative pleasure. Let's try to identify these movements if we get a chance, and if we don't, we don't. So yeah, so we'll take it up next time too. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Taru. I am sure we can
Thanks.
fill a book out of this.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So, yeah, just thanking the grace, thanking divine for the blessings of these reflections, these contemplations, these teachings, these pointers which help me, see the things which are hidden in clear view, and yet I can't see them, and they are polluting me, they are infecting me, they are impurifying my consciousness, which I don't want it to do. And yet I cannot play victim anymore. I cannot play innocent anymore, because now I know the things, a lot of things I do, which I can stop now if I have done them enough. And praying and aspiring for those stoppings is my job, my effort, my sincerity, my honesty. So aspiring and praying for more honesty and sincerity and grace in all our lives, and sharing the merit, if any, from these efforts, these reflections, our lives, our thoughts, our actions with everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.